Welcome to the Escape Collective Tour Daily Podcast. I'm Kaylee Fretz. Johnny Long, where are we? Set the scene for me.
We are at a crowded bar on the riverfront in Bordeaux. We've been walking back and forwards past this row of bars all day and just desperate for a beer. It's so hot that it's,
It's hot.
It's the perfect refreshment. And then we were like, right, we'll just record the podcast here because it looks inviting, a bit of atmosphere we've got here. And it is so unbelievably loud and so packed that not only are we having to lean in to hear each other, everyone around us is kind of staring at us. I feel like we're in proper France now because everyone's kind of being a bit mean.
We were told that we couldn't sit somewhere because 3 people couldn't sit there, and it was a lie. She just lied to us.
She's making up the rules, yeah.
Yeah.
But we do have friends on the next table. I used my one phrase, je ne parle pas français, and
Which
they were
means
very pleased. They said, whoa, and then I clinked my paper beer cup against theirs. We aren't allowed glassware here. We're not trusted. Meanwhile, everyone, I forget about how this is in Europe, but everyone is just chain smoking at all times.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's insane.
I'm not going to lie, it looks kind of fun. I think it must just be something about being in France, just the urge to just
sit here and chain
one
smoke.
shot an entire cigarette.
Just
is
banging for a
overwhelming.
Well, we hope that you can hear us all right because, frankly, we've sat down. This is the window we have to make the podcast. We're not moving.
We're not moving.
It's too late.
I'm not leaving.
I'm not leaving. It's too late. Maybe it'll get quieter.
Have you seen who's just turned up?
Oh! We're going to take a brief pause. One second.
We'll introduce the special guest after.
We know interrupting the magic.
We literally just started.
Oh, did you?
Yep. Well, we've just been interrupted by old friend and colleague Phil Golston. Phil, you're here on holiday.
I am indeed. Apparently there's a race going on. I was not aware of this until just now.
But you thought you'd come and hang out and have a beer with us. We only have 3. We need another one.
Another mic.
Beer.
Oh. Beer.
Okay, enough interruptions. We need to talk about the bicycle race. It was another opportunity for the 35th stage win for Mark Cavendish today, and he came so tantalizingly close. But he didn't do it. Johnny, what happened?
Mechanical problems. We think it stemmed from when he had to change his rear wheel in the lead-up.
Yeah, there's no video of this, but apparently he had to change a rear wheel at some point early
I saw
on.
him have one mechanical.
Ah.
A later mechanical as well.
Well,
we've been driving a lot today.
we've been trying to
half an hour
confirm
on the
this.
bike race.
It sounds like there was at least a rear wheel change, maybe some other sort of mechanical. A rear wheel change could be the culprit. Well, explain what happened first,
yes.
and then we'll come back to the potential mechanical.
The sprint was unfurling. Jasper Philipsen was in the right spot, being led out by Mathieu van der Poel, and then shooting up from the right-hand side just comes Mark Cavendish like a bullet. It's like the Mark Cavendish of old, where it's just like he doesn't even need to draft anyone. It's just this, that. He's so aero, he's just shooting to the front. And we see him, and when he's coming, he sort of sits down a couple of times. He slips and loses momentum. And then there's the final one where he pulls clear and then it slips again and he loses out and Jasper Philipsen wins. He explained afterwards that his gear was just flicking between 11 and 12.
Yeah, 11 and 12, which on a Shimano drivetrain would be the hardest gear and the next easiest, basically.
So Jasper Philipsen won his 3rd stage. Mark Cavendish has sort of trailed him all the way from the finish line to his bus. And it was just silent and freewheeling and just very still, just sort of contemplating. I think he was taking in just how close he'd come. And then pulled up to the bus. Mark Renshaw was waiting straight there. He explained to Renshaw what happened. He was saying to him, imagine sprinting or trying to sprint when it's going 11-12, 11-12.
Yeah.
He went up onto the bus, came back down. He admitted it. He was pretty devastated. But then by the end, he was sort of galvanized and was like, you know what? I know I can do it now because he had done it. If it wasn't for those mechanical issues, he had.
It looked like he had it in the bag. When I first saw it, I thought maybe he had gone too early and he had just blown up, but apparently it was not that. It was the mechanical, and now that we sort of know that, it really changes my perception of that sprint quite dramatically because he said he went at the time he wanted to go. That was one of the things he said after the stage.
He said everything was perfect. He said Case Bowl in their adapted lead-out had sort of. He basically has to do a pre-lead out where he just gets him in position way earlier and drops him off before the Flamme Rouge, so then he can take the wheel he wants, and then he satellites. He like jumps from wheel to wheel, picks which one he's going to do.
Yep.
And yeah, super close, but there's another chance tomorrow, many more chances to come. There's no desperation yet. I'm not sure if there will be desperation, but it was a great chance because you need so much luck in these things.
I don't know if there's desperation, but there's definitely, it's like the chances are running out. This is his last Tour de France. This is one less opportunity. Statistically, it's getting less and less likely with each passing day. So,
yeah, but then I think with statistically to come back after 5 years and then win another Tour de France stage was crazy. I think it might be more devastation than desperation, but it's now going to rise after the second place. It's going to rise to be one of the main sort of narratives of this tour. We also have Biniam Gamay in third, which is his highest finish at the tour stage, and there was a bit of sort of interference in the sprint finale, which meant he could have gone better.
Yeah.
There was also a protest by Intermarché. They lodged a protest with the commissaires, and along with Astana, the two teams were in the referee's truck, trying to argue their case without any effect. So the result stands. Philipsen gets the win. But I think some disappointment from Intermarché that a third could have been second.
Yeah, their lead out in previous stages sort of been just like various Intermarché lead out men just like absolutely just launch it like down the side and then it comes to nothing. But maybe in these like sort of draggier sprints coming up, or even the hillier stages, Biniam Gamay can do something.
So there was a bit of argy-bargy, I think you could say.
Yes.
I don't think, having watched it, I don't think there was anything relegatable. I think that the right decisions were made.
Yeah, I've seen some people saying it was like similar to when Van der Poel got relegated, but I mean the thing is, like, if you're in a sport like cycling, if you're trying to get like the lawmakers to stick to the rules they've set, then you're already fighting a losing battle, and you've kind of just got to. It's like everything, you got to accept that everything is just luck. Everything has to come together. Your bike has to work. You got to be fast. You got to have the commissaires. Maybe they've had a good lunch that day and they're not going to relegate you. Maybe they've had like cold sandwiches and they're feeling mean. That's just how it works.
It is a sport built on a very well-grounded foundation of chaos.
Yes, exactly.
Which is ridiculous when you stop and think about it.
You know.
But it's what it is.
It's what makes it.
They punish outcomes, not actual actions, and there was no negative outcome today, other than maybe Biniam Gamay not coming in second or something like that.
The other things from the sprint today, Caleb Ewan got sort of boxed out, he said, by Bora Hansgrohe, so no sprint for him. He's another one where he really needs a win. He's just looking for that luck to fall in the right place, and it never will. The other big story from the day was Simon Guglielmi of RKS Samsic being offered up.
So this was
breakaway rider.
I was going to pivot over to this because Ian, you wrote a story about our doomed Frenchman of the day. Can you tell us a little more?
It was a deeply doomed breakaway. So Simon Guglielmi from RKS Samsic was the early guy in the breakaway. A few friends joined him, including our favourite Mathieu Bergadou. Everybody now. And then even Mathieu Bergadou was a Mathieu Bergadou. And then
we ended up reuse jokes from the story. Come on, Ian.
Sorry. It was a good one.
But you are either a Mathieu Bergadou or a Mathieu Bergadou.
And I think today we are both.
Yeah.
So Mathieu Bergadou noped his way out of the breakaway. And then it was just one guy out the front trying to, hoover up TV time.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And it's always good in the Tour de France to have a day where there's just a deeply doomed breakaway where it's just bound to fail. No matter what he tries, it's just going to end in disappointment for all parties. So, and inevitably that's what happened. He got joined by Pierre Latour and Nance Peters, and then he got left behind. And just a sad old day for Guglielmi.
I didn't know Pierre Latour was in the Tour.
Yeah, I didn't. I thought he wasn't, but it turns out he is. The only thing more doomed than Simon Guglielmi's breakaway was you writing a story about his doomed breakaway, and then it hit in published just as Nance Peters and Pierre Latour joined him in the breakaway.
Yeah, I mean it was a cascading series of doomed moments. My favourite doomed moment about this breakaway was that I uncovered that the big contract bonus for Simon Guglielmi is that he gets to drive a small Peugeot hatchback with his name on the side. And he got one of those, a silver one, in April, and then changed it over in August for a white one. A Peugeot 208 or something, just like a tiny car. And he couldn't have been more happy on social media.
Wait, this is his actual contract, written in. If he makes it into a breakaway in the Tour de France, he gets to
might upgrade to a slightly smaller car. I don't know. And the final Guglielmi fact that I learned is that maybe he has a little sense of humor because his Instagram profile name is Legoog and then a registered symbol, which I
like that.
Which either means that he has registered that nickname as an official thing
in the French patent office,
which is terrible, or he is just having a bit of fun with it.
Do you think he had to get there before, the Guggenheim try and put one of their sort of things in Paris?
Perhaps.
The only other, it's not a Guglielmi fact, but if you look him up on Pro Cycling Stats or Google Images, he looks like a character in a video game that is the first level that you unlock where there's nothing's been customized yet. It's just a bog standard human man.
I would describe him as a human man. He is generic man.
What?
He could fit every identikit sort of criminal that people are. Oh my lord.
We have
live feedback.
We have additional fans. We have additional fans over here.
That's off-putting.
Our listeners can't tell what's happening, but yeah, basically people sort of look at us and they try to figure out what we're doing.
Yeah.
And at first they're like, "Are you on the radio?" And then they look around. There's no antenna. There's no nothing.
That's why you keep the lanyard on to confirm that you're not a total nutter, just a bit of a one.
I think your shirts say it all, Kaylee and Ian. I think there's no.
Yeah, you guys did sort of. I mean, I brought one collared shirt with me on the tour, and that's being kept safe just in case. But you guys wearing your new sneakers, as
we got the new sneaks,
and you're wearing your fun shirts.
We got fun shirts today.
We accidentally ended up being very matchy today.
I like it.
In that way that people sometimes do. They just end up twinning for the day.
We're not matchy in terms of colors or anything like that.
Just
we're
just
vibe. We both have shorts, white socks, new sneaks, and fancy shirts.
Yeah.
Not fancy.
White English-speaking dads abroad in summer.
That is the vibe we're putting off.
It's like you're going to your in-laws' barbecue. And you're like, well, I have to make a bit of an effort, but also
we won't bring the real fancy beer, but we'll bring a 6-pack of something sacrificable.
That's where we are today. Mine has birds on it, and yours has tulips.
I don't actually know what it's
called.
That is a great shout.
They look like tulips to me.
Thank you.
Didn't know you knew about flowers.
Tadpoles.
I put it on myself.
Anything else on today's sprint? Yes, of course. We had the mechanical. We had Mark Cavendish's mechanical. So, as you said, Johnny, he rolled up to Mark Renshaw. He said it's going between the 11 and 12, 11, 12, 11, 12. Meaning it's going from the 11-tooth cog to the 12-tooth cog, the hardest gear and the second hardest gear. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. As a former tech editor, I may be no Ronin these days, but I am a former tech editor. I can kind of explain what's going on here. So, it sounds like he had a rear wheel change, in which case my guess, most likely culprit, is that due to the pretty high tolerances or tight tolerances in 12-speed groups that now exist, the Shimano stuff and the SRAM stuff, all 12-speed, the tolerances are really tight. The amount that the derailleur moves with each gear is very small. And so all it would take is a rear wheel that went in there that was slightly spaced a bit differently. Basically, the cassette would sit a little bit further inboard or outboard, depending on a spacer or the hub used or whatever. And all it would take is a tiny, tiny, tiny change, and you might end up with a basically rear shifting that's not functioning properly. And the way that would manifest itself most likely would be down in that 11, 12 tooth cog. So that's, at this point, the information we have. That is my guess for what happened. I mean, it could have, the bike could have been knocked over at the start. The derailleur hanger could have been slightly tweaked and the mechanics didn't notice. There's lots of sort of different things that could have happened. But if he had a rear wheel change today, I think that is the most likely culprit for that mechanical issue. And I think you're pretty accurate in saying, Johnny, that is what cost him the stage win today.
Yeah, but the thing is with this sort of final chapter of the Cavendish story, I wrote this in my piece today, is that it was never going to just be straightforward where he just rocks up to Bordeaux and just wins and that's it. it's got to be just layered with drama. I mean, he's got 2 separate camera crews for different Netflix productions following him at the race. Like when he was up on the bus, like decompressing, like getting changed, his family are there. They're like got the big boom mics over them. Like this, it wasn't never going to be simple. There's always going to be these final sort of narrative turns and twists. But he will do it. Like the way that it's all set up is that he's going to do it. Ian's looking at me like I've got too much on my.
I don't think he's
my
going to do it.
British bullshit. And
yeah, I think you do, Johnny.
He's got 2 chances. He's got 3 chances. 3, yeah, probably 3. Definitely 2. There's 2 like 4 sure sprint stages left. That's it.
Well, one of our colleagues also said that he can't wait till the Champs-Élysées because if he needs to rely on a bike that works, then he can't wait for the cobbles.
Right. A source who will remain unnamed reminded me that Cav had similar chain jumping issues at Tirreno this year, and that this is not sort of the first time he's run into this particular problem, which at that point, maybe you do start to look at mechanics. I mean, this is a Shimano drivetrain with, I think he's got head wheels on there and a Willier bike, and I don't think any of the product is the problem. Potentially a mechanic problem, which would be awful, frankly.
All I'm going to say is that Cavendish has previous with losing his rag with mechanics, but if you've seen the Astana Kazakhstan mechanics in the flesh, you would not mess with them. So I think that it's a good marriage there in terms of that everything will just remain like.
So that was going to be my next point. Is I feel like any other year, any other Cavendish that I have ever interacted with, gets back to the bus today and is, pardon my French, fucking furious and chucking things, throwing helmets, maybe bikes, angry. He wasn't like that though.
I don't know, you're trying to read him, and I think he's like keeping it all in, like he's somehow keeping himself composed. I mean, he's not reacting, he's keeping it all in. You can see when he's doing his interview that like he's like moving his head around how he does sometimes. It's a nightmare for the cameramen who are like having to hold these massive cameras in the boiling heat, and they're just like, I don't need this
stay still.
Extra thing, yeah. But then the thing is, when he disappears inside the bus, the Netflix cameras are there as well. So like, obviously they're not going to put that in because he probably has some level of control. But maybe it happens when he's back at the hotel and he just like busts up one room, like they have one extra room, which is like the Cavendish. What do you call it? Like a rec room or something?
There's
like a thing that you like.
Rock stars.
Yeah. It's like a corporate away day thing where you go to like a room and you can just smash it up.
Or just a target with some tomahawks that he can pick up and throw at it. Like
yeah. You just like destroy stuff. So maybe it's maybe he's doing that. I don't know how. Maybe he's now just happy Cav forever because he's like, well, I've made it back and. Yeah.
Well, he's been happy Kev the whole rest of the race, and I
still managed to keep it today. I mean,
today I was expecting the end of happy Kev, and it was not.
One of the key things is that the person who asked the questions at the bus is Daniel Freeb for ITV, which is the British broadcaster of the Tour, and they have a long-time relationship. Daniel's written a lot of his books, so maybe that makes it easier, and Daniel will know how to not ask a more maybe Dutch or Belgian question that would set him off, and knows to treat him with kid gloves. But yeah, we haven't seen anything like that so far, which is probably good, to be honest. You don't want him to go out in a Zinedine Zidane-esque fashion where he's like headbutting someone and then walking off into the sunset.
That'd be kind of fun though, wouldn't it? If he headbutts somebody, if he loses in the Champs-Élysées and then headbutts somebody, that sounds like
what a way to retire.
What a way to go.
Then you become manager of Real Madrid and win like 3 Champions League, and then you're the best forever.
Sounds like a great future he's got ahead of him.
Are we done with the race recap, and do we want to move on to our regular segment? The Maillot Sablé?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Is it going to be the same as yesterday?
Sorry?
Is it going to be the same as yesterday?
Well, Ian, I asked the questions here, buddy.
It's Lawson Craddock.
Today's wearer of the Maillot Sablé is in 79th place, moved down 2 spots today, with a time of 1 hour, 0 minutes, and 17 seconds. Kaylee, you had the first guess yesterday, so I'll give the first guess to Ian. Remember, you can select a clue. You can choose nationality, team, fun fact, serious fact.
Fun fact.
This proves if you've been listening to me over the past few days in the car.
Oh, well, I haven't.
He has won. He won the 2018 Etape du Tour.
I know this one.
Too easy.
Should we spin it out a little bit more?
Okay.
Do you want to fling it over to Kaylee? No, because Kaylee also knows the answer to this because we've both been listening.
People, I mean, a lot of people... actually, for the people at home, he's also French.
Ooh la la.
He rides for Cofidis. And
Cofidis
he won his first Tour de France stage and his team's first Tour de France stage this tour. Who is it, Ian?
Victor Lafay.
Congrats to Victor. That's bigger than stage win.
And now where are the Mare Sable? I mean, that's Cofidis' tour wrapped up, really.
Really, you can just go home at this point.
So, Ian, you've broken your duck. You're now 2-1 down to Monsieur Fretz.
Wonderful.
I never got a chance on that one. Too easy. We need it to be like really random Dutch guys.
Are you saying I should prepare more for this segment? Because you might be right.
No, I'm thinking it didn't matter what clue you gave about Victor Lafay, somebody who we have spoken about extensively in the last week. I think we probably would have.
It's just how it works. Some days giveaways, other days are,
That's all right.
There are no gifts on the tour apart from today.
2-1. I, at the moment, am still going to the Olympics. So, do we have a Christoph corner today?
Do we want? Okay, I'll give you a Christoph corner because Jasper Philipsen won the stage today. My Christoph corner today is that I found out that Alexander Kristoff is the originator of Jasper Disaster.
Oh, really?
He is, yeah. I was skulking around the Uno X team bus. I don't know if this is a widely known fact or whether it's just something some boring Belgian journalist found out and thought that would be his colour piece for the day.
Yep.
Not knowing that there are much more colourful pieces to be had. But anyway, this Belgian journalist...
Are you just jealous?
...came up to him and said, I have heard that you are the inventor of Jasper Disaster. Is this true? And Alexander Kristoff, unprepared for the fact that another journalist was about to ask him much more deranged questions, was quite taken aback, and then he was like, yes, this is true. He came up with it. They were teammates on UAE Team Emirates, and Alexander Kristoff said that he was forever leaving behind shoes, helmets, bags, and he came up with Jasper Disaster, which is quite a clever feat, especially in a second language, to come up with something that almost rhymes but not quite. And yeah, there we go. That's the origin of Jasper Disaster, a phrase that has now caught the cycling world alight and is probably in, I don't know, like 20 headlines a day.
Yep.
Every sprint stage.
Apparently, Rob Hatch has been going with Jasper the Master.
Yeah, I think that he took that from someone else who wrote that, but
yeah.
I don't like that one.
No. We should say that, we tend to watch the tour via French television, which means we don't really understand what's happening a large portion of the time.
Also, if he is a different voice in like real life and when he's commentating, and if he said it in his real accent, then it would be Jasper the Master.
Master.
Does he swap between master and master?
Well, to make it rhyme, yeah. I assume so.
I don't like that at all.
I mean, I'm not going to dig out Rob Hatch because he's a good guy and a good commentator, but...
I'd say he's a good guy and the best commentator, personally.
We all have our favourites.
I like Rob a lot. But I think that's some revisionist history. Trying to take a somewhat disparaging but sounds like accurate nickname away from somebody and apply a positive nickname. I don't like it.
It's the most GCN thing to happen at this tour, where everything has to be roasted into glasses, and we can't even enjoy the fact that Jasper Disaster would just forget his shoes.
I think that's fine. Hey, if he forgets his shoes but also wins 3 Tour de France stages, I feel like that's okay.
We've just been blown a kiss from Perth's second favourite son, Zach.
Zach Williams.
Zach Williams.
Thank you, Zach, for the kiss.
I forgot his name because I just called him Photographer Zach.
I think he would know himself as that by now.
I think so.
That's how he probably
I think so.
identifies.
Well, it would be business savvy if he did.
Speaking of photographers, just sending a little bit of affection out to Ashley Gruber, one of the two famous Grubers who broke her hand yesterday. Don't know if she listens to the podcast.
Saw that.
I can imagine that either driving a car in France would be difficult.
We drove by her
hand.
today, and you can't. Podcast listeners can't see what I'm doing. She just stuck her hand up and looked sad.
I found out yesterday it's very difficult to drive a car in France with two hands because I nearly hit the DSM bus. It was stationary at the time.
Yep.
We were not.
Yeah, I mean, you're on the wrong side. You have a bug. Hey, it's gone. You're on the wrong side of the road. You're on the wrong side of the car because the driver's on the left over here.
Yeah.
And so you weren't entirely clear on where the right side of the car was. That's fine.
Did I hit it though?
No.
I was in the back seat that was closest to the bus, and I audibly sucked in my breath and said, "Johnny!"
You yelped. I think yelped is the way
Yeah,
to.
it was so close.
If we have any F1 fans out there, there's a couple turns like in Monaco where the F1 drivers like literally skim the side, skim the wall. That's what this was. This was F1 level driving from Johnny.
For the F1 fans out there, my response is we're going motor racing, Toto.
All right, it's time for us to wrap up today. As you could probably tell, a little bit less bike racing to talk about because it was a big sprint. It was a good sprint. It's just a sprint. We should mention, actually, tomorrow into Limoges, it is worth saying to all of our listeners out there, maybe you have a fantasy team, maybe you just want to know what's going on. The finish tomorrow is actually quite difficult. It is not a straightforward sprint. It could be a sprint. It could be a not really sprint. It could be like a Van der Poel. It could be a Wout van Aert. It could be a Caleb Ewan if he's on really good form. I believe it's about a kilometer at 4%, I think is the number at the end of this thing. If you go look at the profile, you'll see it's a pretty lumpy, like last 50K. It's a hard one to call. It's a really hard one to call, and I think that riders like Van der Poel will probably be looking at that thinking, this is my opportunity. And he has given a lot for his team. He has basically caused 3 stage wins already. So I think he'll be probably turning around and saying, hello, team. It's my turn. That's my guess.
Who would know that we'd have to say that it's now Mathieu Van der Poel's time to shine ahead of one of his teammates?
Weird.
Another final order of business before we finish. On Monday, it's the rest day. We won't be uploading one of these Tour Daily podcasts on the main channel, wherever you get your podcasts, but Pretty Serious Bike Racing will be, they've got their episode coming out.
Yep.
But we will still be recording a podcast, but it will only be available, distributed to members only. We're figuring out how we're going to do that, probably via an email or Discord. We're going to figure it out and we'll let you know. But the reason we're telling you this far in advance is because if you're a member, and if you're not, sign up. $1, the American equivalent of 1 gold coin. 1 month, perfect. We want your questions. We're going to do a Q&A.
Yep.
We don't. You can ask anything you want, but let's make it fun. You know, you can ask a serious bike race question if you want, but maybe we're not the best people to ask. We could be the best people to ask, but not. But what we are good at is fun, maybe dumb questions.
We are really good at dumb questions. We can also, if you have serious questions, we have a couple days of reporting between now and then, and we can go ask them. Because that's what we do.
That's true.
We are journalists, and we will go find out the answers for you. So if you've been wondering something about the Tour de France, it could be a very simple question. It could be a very complex question. It could be something that we have to go ask a mechanic or a director about. Send it on in. We will put a little note in the Discord about this, and we will also put a note in one of the upcoming newsletters. If you're a member, you get these newsletters every single day. We'll put an email in there, and you can respond there and ask a question.
And also, really, if you're just going to miss your little podcast friends in your ears, this is a really good time to sign up as a member if you're not one already. So do that.
Yep.
And that is the only way that you'll be able to get a rest day pod where we may or may not be sitting in a river.
Unless you've got a friend who's a member and then you just get them sent it to you. But if you do that, I will find you and I'll make you pay for the podcast.
$1, please.
Yes, exactly.
It is. It's only $1 right now. We are having a special promotion during the Tour de France. $1 for this month. Head over to Escape Collective. patreon.com/join and jump on it and ask us a question and get the podcast on Monday. All right. With that, we are going to pop over to José Been. From José Been, we are going to hear about how the life of King Richard the Lionheart ended. It ended, probably gruesomely, in a castle on tomorrow's racecourse. Let's hear from José.
One week done, 2 to go. We start today just outside of Bordeaux in Libourne and make our way to Limoges to the northeast. At 44 kilometers from the finish line, we find the town of Chalus. Chalus is best known as the place where English King Richard the Lionheart was mortally wounded in 1199. Although Richard was well known for his heroic acts in battle and the Third Crusade, his death was actually just not so heroic. Richard was of course King of England, but spent most of his time in France. After all, his mother was French and he inherited a lot of the land. It was also in France that he died. After supper on the evening of March 26, 1199, Richard went to check the progress of an ongoing castle siege in Chalus, a rebellious part of Aquitaine. And because he wasn't going into battle, he didn't bother with body armour. The bloodshed among the locals in Chalus was enormous. One boy lost his father and his 2 brothers. He knew that he would also die in the besieged castle. As a revenge for his family being murdered, he fired an arrow at the king that struck Richard in the shoulder. Back in the royal tent, a surgeon, working by flaming torchlight, eventually dug out the offending barb and the wound was dressed and bandaged. Richard then showed mercy on the young bowman called Pierre or Basile or John. It's 800 years ago and chronicles really differ in their actual account of the happening. The young boy had expected to be executed, but according to the chronicles he heard the king say, "Live on, and by my bounty behold the light of day." Then he ordered the boy to be freed and sent away with 100 shillings. The king continued his recovery, but as medieval European surgery wasn't really big on infection control, he quickly succumbed to this seemingly minor wound because it had turned gangrenous. For the young bowman, it was also not a happy ending. The moment the king died, Pierre, or Basil, or John, was captured again and skinned alive. Richard Hart was buried in Rouen, his body in Anjou, but his entrails stayed in Chalus. The boy was probably tossed in an anonymous grave somewhere. Our Finnish town is in Limoges, on the western foothills of the Massif Central. In 1995, the 18th stage of the Tour de France finished in Limoges as well. It was 3 days after the tragic death of Fabio Casartelli. The Motorola team had crossed the line together the following stage, a moment we sadly also witnessed quite recently after the death of Gino Meder. 2 days after this sad tribute to their Italian teammate, his American Motorola teammate Lance Armstrong attacked and won the stage in Limoges solo. Armstrong pointed to heaven when he crossed the line. For me personally, it was the moment I started following the sport more closely. This mix of emotions really got to me. From a profound loss of a young rider and father and a peloton in tears to the perseverance of his teammate winning a stage for a fallen friend touched me. There was so much more to this cycling thing my dad always watched on TV than I thought. By the way, the win in Limoges is one of the 44 victories that Armstrong got to keep.
Thank you to José for that bit of insight. And last but not least, there is no racing at the Giro today, but that doesn't mean that we're going to just ignore the Giro entirely. Abby has filed some audio diaries with us, so let's jump over to Abby, see how the Giro's going.
Hello, thank you so much for listening to the Wheel Talk podcast and this snippet of Giro Donne coverage on the Tour dailies. Today is a rest day at the Giro. The women traveled from mainland Italy to Sardinia yesterday, last night after the 7th stage, before the 8th stage, which is Saturday, tomorrow. But I still had a couple audio diaries come in, so I figured today there's nothing to talk about. Just throw in some audio diaries. The first audio diary you'll hear is Nina Kessler about the 7th stage. Next, we have Neve Fisher-Black from SC Works. And finally, Veronica Ewers, who had a rough day on Thursday. If you listen to that episode on the Wheel Talk podcast, you heard a very raw and honest audio diary from Veronica, and she's feeling a bit better today. So that's the third audio diary. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast, and we'll be back Saturday, Hannah and I, to talk about stage 8 in Sardinia.
Cool, good morning. That was a busy day yesterday, and a really long one. So obviously we had the stage. That was again a pretty hard stage. But I think for everybody, and you could also see that, like, also the riders on the GC were like a bit struggling maybe. But yeah, it was day 7, and everybody was definitely getting a bit tired. I felt quite good. Ended up in a nice gruppetto again. Went to the finish. But this was one of those finishes that it was not possible to have the bus on top of the climb. So the bus was part like 7k down. Oh, and I totally understand, and because it's just not possible to have a bus up there, but I hate it so much that you pass the finish line and have to turn around and ride back down. And then I was riding back down to the bus, and then it started to rain, and I was pretty cold. But then you arrive at the bus and you can have a warm shower instead of a cold one after every hot stage. It was almost weird to have it cold. No, but that's how it is, and it's good, and that's how it works. And after that we had not a really long travel, but it just took really long. So the bus driver took us to the airport, where we got dropped off, and we had a flight with the whole bunch. So we were checking in, and then there was dinner arranged from the organization at the airport. So had some nice pasta and chicken, and then the waiting started. And it's always and we also had a delay, so I think we left in the end, I think 9:45. But it's always quite funny if you normally if you travel with a team and you have to have a flight, like all the cyclists always wants to go in the plane as late as possible. They just keep like waiting till everybody's in and then they walk in. But if you have a full plane of cyclists, somebody needs to go in line. And it was actually the same when we arrived. Like normally you have like a lot of people that as soon as we hit the ground, they're gonna stand up, take their like hand luggage and stuff, and they want to run out the airport plane somehow. And yesterday everybody was like, yeah, okay, we're there, and just stayed on their place. And I think till the steward said, the door are open, you guys, you can go. Oh, it was quite funny, but it was a really long day. So we were back in the hotel, I think almost around 12. And yeah, this morning we got picked up at 8:30 because yesterday we stayed in you cannot say an airport hotel, but just close to the airport. And now our bus picked us up and is gonna bring us to the race hotel. So like all the cars and trucks and buses, they took the boat last night. So for the staff, it was also a pretty long day. And then on day 8 now in the Giro. So it is a rest day, but the day already started. I'm pretty tired, but yeah, 2 more stages to go. It's also nice to be here on the island. It's really pretty. But yeah, I feel a bit tired, but I think that's normal, and I think everybody feels. But we're still going to fight for some good results. Let's see.
Hey, it's Neve, coming to you from my latest hotel bed. And I want to say Orsay, Sardinia. I just had a look on the map. But yeah, I'm pretty tired if you can't tell. We had stage 7.5, I'd like to call it, last night. I think the hardest stage yet, probably. Yesterday was no easy day in itself, but then we had a late night. The flight, it was delayed a bit. And yeah, I mean, you can picture 150 girls of the peloton sitting on the ground of Genoa airport waiting for a flight to come. Yeah, it was not exactly a pretty sight. We arrived in Olbia, Sardinia late, and then all the teams were in different hotels basically, so we all just piled into buses and get dropped off at each hotel. Our hotel was about an hour transfer, and it was about 1 in the morning by the time we got there. It was like a strange little hotel in the middle of nowhere. It was kind of like cabins we were staying in, and no air conditioning or anything, so it was a bit of a situation of sleep with the windows wide open and try to keep as cool as possible. But honestly, it was a fall into bed situation. We were so tired and just tried to get as much sleep as possible, but in the end it was pretty short sleep. Lucky today it's a rest day. We had another short transfer this morning to a new hotel, which is it's also good because it's a bit nicer, and I'm sitting in an air-conditioned room right now, so happy, because I can't tell you how hot it is here. We just went for a small ride before, just to spin the legs a little bit, and actually afterwards we got some gelato, which was, I think, just what we needed. But now it's time to hopefully recoup a little bit, rest, and get some massage this afternoon, probably have a nap, and hope to recover a bit before the last 2 days of the Giro. It's going to be hot, and I'm actually really excited. I think it's really up and down here, if I see from the ride that we've just done, and I think it's going to be an interesting couple of days. We can take some opportunity. We're only a small team now with 5 riders, because Lorena and Elena left us the day before last, but we can finish this off, I'm sure. So final run. I'll speak to you after tomorrow. Hopefully I'm a bit more alive.
Hello, Veronica here on the rest day. The transfer was quite long yesterday after such a hard stage. About a 2.5 hour drive to the airport, about 2 to 3 hours of waiting at the airport, the flight, and then getting to the hotel around 11:30 p.m. last night, and then transferring to our new hotel for tonight, this morning, here on Sardinia. And it is quite hot, so the next 2 days will be pretty brutal, not only just because of the course, but also due to the heat. It's been a pretty, other than the transfers, it's been a pretty generally relaxed rest day. Did a quick spin, and just hanging out today. I think the rest day is really, it's kind of it's a good thing and a bad thing. It's nice to have a mental break for a moment, but I think physically there are some of us that would rather just push through it and not have a rest day and then dead legs the next day. But then some people really benefit from the rest day. So should be interesting. Yeah, it's been nice to have today, though, just to spend a bit of time with the teammates away from racing for a day. We get to have a pretty relaxed lunch, just rest sort of together and spend some nice quality time together talking about different things, not necessarily bike related. A few of us got talking about having sports psychologists or wanting sports psychologists and just therapy in general being really beneficial. And so it's been really nice to be able to have those conversations with teammates in a really open and honest way, which, yeah, I think going through a grand tour together through all of the ups and downs really brings everyone closer together. So it's easier to have those kind of conversations with each other. Yeah, and I think also, aside from teammates, I just want to further acknowledge how incredibly important and incredibly incredible the staff are. They deal with a lot and they work incredibly hard to have the teams function. And I mean, the Giro is not known for being the most organized, and that was pretty clear today. And yet they are trying to be as positive as they can and get things to work as best as they can. So I hope that all riders can acknowledge and appreciate the staff that they have when they have staff that are working as hard as they are. Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. Again, if the audio quality of this episode is somewhat suspect, we do apologize. It is loud here, but we didn't want to move.
It's not about the podcasts we made, it's about the friends we made along the way.
Which is mostly Phil.
Hi.
All right, we're going to wrap up today. We'll be back tomorrow from Limoges. And another opportunity for maybe Mark Cavendish, but probably not. We'll see you there. Bye-bye.